I have to tell you, I am most proud of this panel. And the reason that I'm most proud of this panel is because I moderate women in film panels all over the world. They need male champions. And I'm very pleased to be a spokesman in some regards on their behalf. With all that has happened, and I don't want the story, I just want a raise of hands. How many of you in your career, and then we'll introduce you, how many of you in your career have been abused by a man?
Well, we're talking sexual,
right.
physical, emotional, spirit, energetic.
Yeah. All right. Well, look. When I asked that question at Sundance last year, every woman on the panel raised their hand. And to me, it's still shocking. I am very proud that I had a confrontation with one of the most deviant people in the film industry, 14 years at Sundance, and it had nothing to do with championing women's cause at that point, but the most disgusting but most powerful person in the film industry. I had a major experience with him, and I feel that we need to address that at some time. And my little job that I want to be partially responsible is to have all these women break through the glass ceiling. And I know, and I promise Noemi that she won't be on another Women in Film panel when I do it, because at Sundance 3 years ago, she's on the panel. I think it was your first Sundance. And there's a lady that asked a question in a very quivering, shaky voice and said to the panel, I want to be a director, but I don't know how to direct. And this young lady was shaking when she was asking the question. Naomi, and this is a Kodak moment that I had no camera to take. Naomi said to her, do you cook? Yes. Do you set the table? Yes. Do you decide what to make? Yes. Do you decide what to buy? Yes. Do you decide who sits where? And all these questions. And Naomi said, Madame, you're a director. And the lady started crying. And Naomi got off of the stage and hugged her. What a code! I mean, it was just a very, tender moment. Okay, so let's start with Candice. Tell them a little about you and what you're doing and what you did and where you're going.
Yeah, absolutely. I started on set fresh out of school about 12 years ago and worked my way into the post side of production. So I'm now working at Eggplant Picture, which is one of the sponsors here, as the senior in-house producer there for post. So we're a full-service post company, and basically my job is to project manage everything that comes through that door. So, it's a technical position, but it's also client-facing. And more, I guess, in the near future, I'm actually going to be moving on to start working at Netflix at the end of the month, so in their post division. So it does, you can break through that ceiling. It does happen, yeah. But I'll let you.
Valerie?
Hi, Valerie is my French name, but my English name is Vanessa Meadows. Hello, I'm based in the Baltimore, D.C. area. That's not where I'm originally from, but that's where my husband works. I've been acting since I was 3 years old. I'm stage and theater based, but a few years ago I transitioned to TV and film. And coming up in a few weeks, I'm filming my first full-length documentary, and I have a short that I'm writing and directing probably in the spring. Thanks for having me.
Hi, My name is Nancy. My friends call me Nan, and you should. I am a writer-producer. I started my career 1.5 million years ago working for a television show called Grizzly Adams. Any of you's old enough to remember. They didn't have film school that I was aware of that time, but I did quit college to become the next Cecil B. DeMille. Unfortunately, my job was very low level on the totem pole, but I found it so fascinating on that side of the camera that that's where I wanted to remain. I'm now the Vice President of International Women in Film, referred to as WIFTI. I am the President of Tennessee Women in Film, and I'm the founder of the Franklin International Independent Film Festival, which we've been lucky enough to have Corky every year with us. But I started the film festival for the same reason that I'm here, that I really believe in women. I believe in friendships and relationships that create collaborations among women. And I think that when we all walk down the road together, and it's not pithy, it's not hyperbole, but when we all walk down this road together, we do succeed. I don't think there's a glass ceiling anymore. I think that the stronger as a body that we are, we just automatically rise up and move forward, and that's the truth.
Before we go on, if you think that I'm a good connector, Nancy is the best connector that I've ever met. If you're a friend of Nancy's, you're a friend, and she is the best connector for whatever you want to do.
Thank you, Corky, for having me here, and thanks everybody for attending. This is a wonderful full room, so I'm delighted. My name is Noemi Weis, and I'm a filmmaker. I have been in the film industry for the last decades. I won't say how many because it makes me old. But I've been in the communications world my whole life. So I'm all about communications, and it's different ways of communicating with people. We are in an area right now where we are all here trying to bring a message forward. That's what I've been doing for the last 2 decades, I guess, doing films, social issues documentaries mainly about women and children, and trying to make a difference in the world using the tool that we have, which is so powerful. That's what I've been doing, and I've been mentoring people, and I've been trying to bring the voice to the voiceless, raise the awareness of people that have something to say, and that together, like Nancy was saying, I think that together we can make a difference. I don't believe in barriers. I don't believe in fear. I don't really believe in language barriers. And I honestly, the reason that Corky said that I'm back into the women in film, although he had promised that I wouldn't be, is because I believe that we have come to a point, at least in my view, that gender equality is an old thing of the past. I think that we have to be beyond that. And in my view, it's all about human rights. I respect people for who they are and what they have to offer, and I expect the same in return. And I think that if we change that set of that route and that way of thinking, then we won't have any more to talk about gender equality. We'll be talking about people.
Can you mention a few of your documentaries, please, and the subject matters?
Yeah, so I've done films from gay rights to domestic violence to children's traffic to my latest film, Milk, which is about the business of birth and infant feeding. And now I'm about to start production of a new documentary that I've been developing for the last 2 years, which is about the crisis of youth mental health globally. And I'm starting production in a couple of weeks. We are in pre-production right now. So they are all dreams. I say that I produce dreams. For many years I produce other people's dreams. And I've been producing my dreams when I'm writing and producing and directing documentaries. So that's what I'm
But
doing.
you're doing a non-documentary now, are you?
And I'm also involved in a non-documentary at the moment, which is a feature animated film for children and adults and people of all ages. So yeah, good messages that I believe that have to have a root in order to bring change Some of you have heard my daughter this morning talking about her hugs, and it's part of what we believe in our family, that unless we do something for humanity, we don't have a place in this society. So that's what we strive for.
So remember, there's a hat over there, and if you're able to, please put in the hat whatever you feel comfortable doing, so her family, Nadine's family, can continue to help the homeless and children in hospitals in the Toronto area. So keep that in mind. And there's a hat over there if you decide to really do anything. Okay. One of my favorite people.
Oh, you're kind. Thanks, Corky. I am Jen Wallace. I'm an accidental banker by day. That's what pays the mortgage and buys the cat food. And I'm probably the youngest or newest on the panel. I'll say most emerging filmmaker on the panel here. I'm halfway, 2/3 of the way through principal production on my first documentary. I have another one in pre-production. I had an idea. I had to tell the story. Who am I to do this? I never went to film school. I work at a bank. I studied psychology in college. I can't do this. And I called a friend, and she said, just go make yourself some business cards and put filmmaker on it and start calling yourself a filmmaker and go do it. And I went, okay. And same thing. She said, do you know how to run a project and run a budget and ask the legal questions and, get stuff done? And I said, yeah, that's what I get paid to do for work. She's like, then you're a director and a producer. Go do it. You know how to tell stories. You've been doing it your whole career. So this has really been a journey for me of trying to understand how to take 20 plus years of business acumen working in financial services and coming into the film world. I'm working actively on trying to get time on set. I'm a runner. If you want to run a marathon, it's time on feet for training, so it's time on set. Working a camera, working a boom mic, knowing how the actual stuff works. So I'm trying to fill out that part of my resume now, but I know how to run business stuff. So Corky, I met Corky at Cannes this year. Corky said, you should come to, I'm sorry,
No,
I met Corky at
Sundance.
Sundance. I've been doing Sundance for about 10 years. And I met Corky at Sundance, and Corky said, you should come to Cannes with us. And I went, I can't go to Cannes. Who am I? I didn't do any, there's no way. And he goes, just apply. And I did, and I got accepted to attend. And then Corky said, you should come to Toronto. And so it's been, thank you, it's been fun.
But before that, you partied with me in Vegas.
No, Vegas was later. That was your award later, yeah. So I say that story between my friend who said, go make yourself some cards and call yourself a filmmaker, and Corky kind of saying, go, try, be on a panel. It's really been a gift to me to have people I respect and love push me so far out of my comfort zone and just ask me to stretch. And I've just kind of surrendered to that, and I'm on this journey, and we're going to wrap hopefully in the next year and see where this story goes.
And she makes the best chocolate chip cookies. So
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So now the question that I have, and I'm going to throw it out to all of you. Do you think that there's any struggles that you still have with people giving you the full attention and the respect that you deserve?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, this is something that I find to be really distracting for me in my career. It's something that I am aware of every single time I step out into the acting world. I have experienced, I would say, a high number of incidents of harassment throughout my career. I've been acting for over 30 years. I'm 34. So I've been acting for 33 years. And in that time span, whether it's theater or film and TV, I've experienced a lot of harassment, bullying, even a few months ago, feeling like I'm not being taken seriously. And that's really more of a perception. No one's ever actually said to me, I don't take you seriously. But the feeling that I get very often is that I'm not being taken seriously. And how I perceive that is, am I too nice? Is it because I'm a girl, or I'm younger than some other people. And I try to not internalize that. And that took me a really long time because I used to form and shape how I viewed myself in the industry and personally. I used to really take it with a lot more heavier than I do now, and now it sort of bounces off, but it's distracting. And that's what really bothers me, is that I can't just relax and feel equal in this industry a lot of the times because I'm having to constantly feel like I'm playing bumper cars with other people that are trying to, instead of raise me up, pull me down.
Candice?
Can I be a devil's advocate for a
Yeah.
second on that?
Yeah.
Because having been working for the last 2 years on the topic of youth mental health, I had the opportunity to hear a lot about bullying. And it's a big factor. Unfortunately, in the United States, which is one of the countries that is experiencing the highest rate of suicide among young people, a lot of that happens because of bullying. So my question is really, and goes back to the statement that I made earlier, is it because you are a woman that you're getting bullied? Because boys are getting bullied as well. And I think that when we talk about bullying, this is something that unfortunately is happening. It's not that it's new. It happened all along for centuries, but it's coming to a point that is affecting people a lot more. But I am not certain if it is all about the gender or not.
Wait.
So
Naomi,
I think that that's a
Naomi,
discussion that we could open up here.
But there's a difference in the workplace where I don't think it's bullying in the workplace. I think it is something that they don't give the same respect. Look, we can debate it, but I don't want to spend the time debating it.
You know, I would go to the data using my business acumen here. And Nan, you may be able to speak to this with the connection to women in film too, but I think Women in Film LA probably has some really great stats on their website about just the number of women who have, you know, successful first features who don't get funding for second features versus men who have flops for first features who get follow-up funding. You know, look at the money, look at the opportunity. It's there in the numbers, and it's real, you know, I think in that sense. To your point, Noemi, about bullying, you know, thank God we're talking about it more. And it seems to be very different in how it manifests against girls and boys. And, you know, we have quiet, sensitive, thoughtful, creative men who are told to suck it up and walk it off, and, you know, and so it's be a man, and, you know, so it comes out differently. And those, I don't know how those two work together yet, the data and that cultural aspect, but I think they're both part of this.
Sorry, I think that women have to start thinking about themselves as individuals, and then we will stop that cycle. Because if we don't stop that cycle and we continue feeling that harassment comes in because of a gender issue, we will never break the cycle. And we need to break that cycle. So that's my message. And it goes to everything we do, right?
And as I was thinking about this panel, I was actually thinking that too. I do not usually think I am a woman in this industry. I don't see those lines. But when these things happen to me, I wonder, is it because I'm a woman? Is that why I'm getting the feedback that I'm getting? And is that why I'm possibly viewing it this way? Or is it just because I'm a person in this industry and we're bumping into each other? And I think that that's a really valid thing to think about for both genders, or all genders.
I think it's all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to add something too, because our studio, where, you know, I do feel like there's a lot of progress that's been made where, as you're saying, it shouldn't be about whether you're a woman or not, because we actually do have our VFX supervisor is a woman, one of our audio engineers on our sound side is a woman, one of our delivery technicians is a woman. So there's definitely progress there, but I do think there's still, even though that progress has been made, it's taken a bit of time for the idea that women in those technical positions is a normal thing, right? There's just not as many. So I think that that's something that it's just an adjustment that's happening, and it's taking time for people to kind of accept the fact that, oh, hey, you know what, a woman can be a sound engineer and she's just as capable as a man who's a sound engineer. So I do think it's we're moving ahead on it, but it's definitely just taking some time for everyone to kind of adjust and be able to respect people as equals rather than based on their sex.
I also think that in dark, uncertain times, or times when there are people trying to divide everybody and find lines to divide everybody, we have to sort of stop sometimes and think about, do I want to draw a line in the sand here, or do I want to just myself own the space, who I am, and move forward from there? Because it's easy once one hears about things that are lifted up as and I'm not talking about real sexual harassment. I'm talking about the fact that there are people who still at the top, it's plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. There is a circle. And right now, as these new ideas and useful people and strong women and strong men are taking more of their placing, then the old guard of what was acceptable falls away. And so we can sit here and we can say, oh my God, that's also that. They looked at me this way, there was this, there was that. You can take it and you can say, huh? And decide yourself to move forward, or you can stay in that position of, oh, wow, this is this and that is that, and label it. Shed the labels, shed the words, be as strong as you can be. Look at the people who can be your mentors and move forward, because frankly, I think there's some issues, and I'm not minimizing anything. I'm just saying myself, I'm concerned with social justice as a whole, where humanity can move forward as a whole. We're all walking down this road. We can do it by ourselves. We can be, really super self-righteous and let our ego get involved, or we can shed that stuff and move forward. Women in film, for example, there's 1 million women's organizations that make great film and try to make film and have tried to band together so that there can be opportunities for women not to tear each other down, to be partners, to collaborate. So seek those places out. They're there. At SWAN, EWA in Europe, SWIFT, which is Sisters Working in Film and Television, and Women in Film. We, as International Women in Film, are trying to bring them all under one big tent. Not saying you have to be women in film, you already are. But to say these are all safe spaces where we can learn from each other and move forward. But again, not being caught up in the labeling, because that's somebody else's reason for us to not stand firm, such as social issues. Just on the minorest level is that at the Cannes Film Festival, women to go on the red carpet are required to wear long dress and high heels. That, as a social injustice, bothers me.
I did not know that.
Bothers me.
Well, there was a movie at the Cannes Film Festival called Carol. And Rooney Mara, who's the co-star of the movie, I'm 3 people behind her, gets up to the front of the line to go in, and the security guard says, "You can't get in." So Rooney Mara said, "Why?" And he said, "You can't get in. You don't have high heels on." And she said, "But I'm the star of the movie." And the security guard, as insensitive as the French can be, "I don't care if you're Mahatma Gandhi, you're not getting into this movie." So 3 ladies behind her took off her high heels, gave them to Rooney Mara, with where she was staying, and please return them, and said, "Wear them. I'll see the movie some other time." Left the line, and Rooney Mara got in. There was such an outcry after that incident happened that the next year, no high heels. Then last year, they said, back to high heels. And you can't go on the red carpet as a woman without formal attire and high heels. But that's the French. They boo films they don't like. They loudly boo. Nicole Kidman played Princess Grace in one of the opening night films. She comes out for Q&A, and they booed her off the stage. They booed her off the stage. No, because apparently they didn't like the fact that she played Princess Grace. And maybe they didn't like her performance. But then you leave the theater. They booed her off the stage. She comes out crying. She says, I've never been treated like that before in my life. So that was in May. In September, I'm at the Toronto Film Festival. I'm doing live panels, streamed also. And on my left was the lady from France that does the marketing for French films. And on my right was a lady from Russia that does marketing for their films. So I introduced them, and they talk about what they do. And then I turned to the lady from France and said, do you know what happened to Nicole Kidman at the Cannes Film Festival last May? And I tell her the story. And her eyes just bulge, and she says, are you saying the French are rude? I said, no, you're saying it. And next day, an article, Kessler offends French. So you have to realize that there's a go around, come around. I was very pleased to be able to be in a position to call her on it. She didn't like it. I didn't care. Candice, how did you move from a position at a post house to this position at Netflix?
Well, I've been at the post house for 7 years, and I was lucky enough, and I feel like obviously hard work is number one, but I was lucky enough to have managers that allowed me to take the reins on things. They believed that I was capable. They believed that by embracing the fact that I was coming in younger and I had these ideas and, I had a lot of ambition and drive to do something with it, that ultimately, they trusted me to, in the hard work and the time, eventually, it would go somewhere. And just working through a number of projects and them being successful, ultimately you build relationships and people take a break on you and give you a chance, an opportunity, and you just hope that you show them that you're capable too, and that you've earned it. And so that relationship basically ultimately led me to connecting with someone on Netflix, and then they saw something in me on a film that I had worked on that they felt that I would be a good fit for their team there. So I do think that ultimately hard work is number one, but I don't think that at any point there was a question of whether my femaleness had anything to do with it. It was just, do the work and it happens. So, yeah.
And talent helps.
Yeah.
I would ask each of you, starting with you, if you have one piece of advice, in particular to the women in this business, what would your advice be?
I would have to agree with the comments made earlier. We have to stop perpetuating the marginalization of ourselves. So if I function like I'm as good or the best at something, and I truly believe that I am, and I'm not letting that internalize whatever experiences I've had, I find that you prosper that way rather than allowing yourself to continue to think that there's an issue, because there always will be if you continue to think. I mean, I'm not trying to disregard what's happened or that it exists, but I think that if you try to rise above it and focus on just being the best that you can be at what you're doing, ultimately, it won't matter in the end.
Can I add to that real quick? I think an element of that is that you need to claim it and own it. I was watching Wimbledon this year, and Serena Williams, who's challenging Margaret Court for the most titles ever, they interview her, and she goes, yeah, I think I played some good tennis. This was before she lost in the finals. Yeah, I think I've played some good tennis, and I guess I've earned my spot here in the finals. Then they go to Nadal. Nadal's like, I played good tennis. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's go. Bring it. There was, no modesty, and he earned it. They both did. But she just had this kind of, and little timid, we have to do that. And it's like, I'm done with that. Sorry, peeps. I'm done. So I would say that.
Yes, so I second everything that you said. And actually, so I'm also a speaker. I'm an actress, number one. I'm a filmmaker, but I'm also a speaker. And I host workshops and speak about how to live a balanced, joyful, sustainable life in this industry. And I focus really on actors because that's what I'm able to empathize with best. But what I speak about can be applied to everyone. But one of the reasons that I share that knowledge is because I want to help other people rise higher, like what Nan and Naomi were talking about. And I think that that's really, really important to not just focus on the troubles that you might be going through or the boundaries that you see, but taking what you have everything you need in this moment, for this moment, and sharing that with other people, because every single person in this room knows something that someone else doesn't know that they need to know. And that's not really philosophical, that's just factual. So in my workshops and what I speak about is truly strategies that you can customize to your own life and your own career to not just enjoy it and succeed, but to really excel and then help others do that. And that's what I would advocate in terms of the issues that we're talking about today, acknowledging them. Just because there's an issue that's going on that you feel you're powerless about, acknowledge it, don't shove it away, and then decide, how am I going to address it should this happen again? Or how do I address what just happened now? And really, truly focus on moving forward, be the calm in the storm, and don't let other people push you around.
A piece of advice.
A piece of advice.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try to keep it short. So my piece of voice is really for everybody because, again, it's not that I don't see gender. It's like a friend of mine who's African-American, Hazel, somebody said to her, I don't even see you as black. And she looked at them and she said, that's a problem because the skin is 70% of your body and I'm black. So if you don't see that, we've got a problem right away. But what I'm saying is that I don't think that gender is the matter. I think that every filmmaker in this room, and in fact in the world, seriously, you have this rare and unique opportunity to chronicle a situation, to chronicle a story, to chronicle a social justice issue, to tell the world through the unique medium of the visual. And when you tell a story visually, it has so much power. So what I'm saying is be aware of what your power is. Let it stimulate you, your own personal power, and let it drive you. And let it drive you to the people who can help make that better. Let it drive you to the places that you need to be. But start in that space that you are powerful. Your story can change lives. And if it wasn't for the little girl running down the road in Vietnam with the napalm on her back as her clothes were burned off her, we could be in Vietnam today. The fact is that hearts and minds can be transformed by what you do. So absorb your power, but realize you're responsible for it as well, and good luck.
So there's a lot of men in the room. I think I was trying to count, and it might be that there are more men than women here in the room. So I'm wondering what they are thinking. To all the men in the room, well, it's respect. And I'm sure that you are here, and if you're sitting listening to women in film talking in this panel, you're wondering yourself and having some self-reflection, but you're going to take something with you to know that next time, or anyone around you that is not acting in the right way with any woman, you're going to stop them. To the women in this room, I don't know if I have any more to add to everyone because it's been really beautiful and eloquent. I personally can say that if you have something to say, people will listen independently of their gender. So I believe that because we are in the communications world right now, here, we tell stories, we do have something to say. So once you believe in your dream, once you believe in your story, you definitely have something to say. You love it, you are passionate about it, that's why you want to make that film. So when you speak to it, when you do your pitch, like they said this morning, own it, and I'm sure people will listen. I want to just say a small incident about what happened to me just a few weeks ago in trying to get access to an organization in the United States that deals with young boys' mental well-being, let's call it. And when I called that I wanted to come in and witness what they were doing as part of my film, they said, who are you coming with? And I said, I have a couple of cameras, sound, da, da, da. And are they all men? And I said, well, I'm the woman in the group. And the reply was, we're going to have to ask permission from the board to see if you would be allowed, because this is a boy organization. And I had to laugh, because I said, well, you know, I'm doing this, and the reason I want to come and see what you're doing is because I want to help you raise awareness of what you're doing, so we don't have this problem of communications and emotional instability between genders. And they said, well, we're going to have to take it into the board, and also because you know, we spend 24 hours, and you're going to we sleep in this place for the weekend, and we're going to have to see if we can allow you in. And I said, there's no women, and the answer was, there's 2 women who are in the kitchen, they cook for us. And I thought, well, that's the best joke that I've heard. Here you are teaching men and young boys how to open up their feelings, how to be open about it all. And then why didn't you pick up men to be in the kitchen? Because men are really good cooks. Why did you have to bring 2 women to be the only ones that will be in the kitchen? And they could not answer. Well, 3 days later, they called me and they said, the board has accepted that you can come. I don't know how that's going to go, and we are still debating if I'm going to go, but I'm hoping next time that we meet, I will have a story to tell you. So my message to everybody is, let's respect each other. That's all we need to do.
So I said this at the panel at Cannes, Corky, which was for everybody in the room. I think in any project you're working on, when you're staffing it or looking for help, pause and be really purposeful in the people you're bringing onto your project or to whom you're reaching out to. Look at all of the diversity dimensions. To your point, Noemi, you know, don't just look at gender. Look at age. Look at race. Look at religion. Look at emotional well-being. Peter Farrelly did the director of Dumb and Dumber and Green Book, the Green Book, is really working on trying to integrate people with autism and Asperger's and anywhere on the spectrum into his writing teams, because he's really trying to open up and understand and show how different people move through the world. So I would ask you to just pause and consider every step of your project. Who can you bring in who doesn't look like me, act like me, think like me, who walks through the world in a different way, and be purposeful in integrating that into your work.
I am very fortunate that I represent a lot of phenomenal women in this business. And I am very thrilled to be able to guide them to a certain degree as best I can. But let me tell you one story, and then I'll give you a final comment. I was invited to go to a group of women in Provincetown. And it was a women organization and 120 women in the film business. And the keynote speaker was a director, female, who hadn't directed a movie in 15 years. And you could tell, not only by the look of her face, but when she began to talk, that she was bitter. And so bitter that in her keynote speech, she told all the women to exclude men from their films, and they could all do it by themselves. So I went up to her afterwards, and I said to her, if you continue to offend the men that want to help you, your organization is going to die. Because we're your champion. And there's a reason there's a yin and a yang. And if you continue to offend the champions who try to champion your cause, you're making a big mistake. And with that statement, I want to tell especially the women here, get up. Stand up. Stand up and say to yourselves, I'm as important in what I'm doing than anybody else that I know. And stand up and be proud of the fact that you are going to do something because you're the best person for what you're going to do. So thank you. All right. Are there any questions? Yes? And then we got to go on to the... Yes.
Hi, I know I'm full of them.
That's okay.
Yeah. This kind of ties in with what Jennifer had said in regards to bringing in people of whether it's gender or race. But I'm curious how all of you have experienced, if you've been in a position where you're, say, seeking funding or distribution, and you have treatment that's very different than it would be if it were a male. I'll use a specific example. It's not my personal experience, but let's say you are pitching to a network executive and he asks you to have a final discussion on his boat and asks you to go in your swimsuits. I'm curious how you would handle that and what you look at next.
Wow.
You say no. I'll meet with you in your office. I don't know. I mean,
Neutral location.
I had that incident in Cannes many years ago. I think that you say exactly that. We don't need to meet in your boat, or we don't. And well, if your boat is on land and there's a lot of people around it and it's public, then maybe we will. But there's no need. I mean, you just are up front. I think that you never should be afraid of putting what you think, and you'll be respected. So I don't think that goes to what Corky just say. Be strong.
That's right.
And just speak it out loud if you need to. You'll be heard.
So what I want to add to that is absolutely I agree with Noemi and I agree with where Jennifer was going. But here's the situation. If you do decide, because it's your decision, to have confidence in what you're doing, because a really good film can take 10 to 12 to 14 years from the seed kernel to the actual where it's in service. So when you know that, it's great if you're done before 10 years. That's amazing and that's wonderful. But you don't... So what I'm saying is if you believe that what you're making is quality and that you're doing a quality thing, that is not the only person that has money in this world. And frankly, if they're bold enough to say it to you and they don't know you at all, they already have a reputation that you might not be aware of, but they have a reputation. So the fact is that's not somebody you want to do business with if somebody starts like that. And what would you tell your child? Do you want them to be in that situation? No. So you have to look at the world as though you're talking to children and in a sense of you're setting a model and an example. So yes, that kind of thing has happened as an approach to probably 999.9 thousand women in this world, but it also happens to men. It does. Whether it's from men to men or women to men, it happens. So what you have to do is just say, do I want to do business with a person who obviously already doesn't value me or what I have to say? Absolutely not. So the answer is no. You don't even have to thank them for their time because it was a scam and a lie. But you just say, nope, not interested in that. But if there's somebody working with you that would like to talk to me about my business and we could do that in a public restaurant, I might consider it. And you can say that in a really, really, really nice way because you have to give respect to get respect. So you can give that respect to them and say, hey, if you know somebody, that would be good. And then you leave that situation. You call the sexual harassment hotline. That's an 800 number. It's an 800 number because it used to be that women, even the casting directors who were supposed to protect them, wouldn't because they had a deal with the producer. So you have to take that responsibility to yourself, everybody. You have to own that, male and female, own it and say, I don't need my job this way because I have better value than that.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I think that fear that that's the only option that everyone used to have, or a lot of people used to have, is something that, you know, doesn't need to exist anymore. So if you're being approached that way, it's not, as you mentioned, it's not the only way, because there's a lot of people that don't think that way and are happy to work on your project, that, you know, you don't need to feel like this insinuated need to go on this guy's boat or, you know, in the hotel room, or all those scenarios we've heard, you know, lots about over media when the whole Me Too thing kind of started. And I just feel like knowing that that's not the route you have to go now. There's no fear. You don't need to have a fear anymore about that. So.
Can I just add
Yeah, you certainly can.
So just to underscore what they're saying, I think the key word here is boundaries. And I think as women, in the past few years, at least the people around me and in my generation, we're discovering that it's okay to have boundaries. And we're discovering what those are specifically, especially since men are kind of asking, which I like. You know, they're asking quite broadly. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I've been asked a few times, like, what can I do? Like, can I hug you? Do I have to ask you now? You know, there are certain comments. I don't know what's okay and what's not anymore. And personally, in my own opinion, I feel that we all individually, no matter what gender we are, have our own set of boundaries. And if you establish them and other people do not respect those boundaries, then just like what Nan said, you probably don't want to work with them or interact with them. And that's okay. Remembering that you are enough is key, and establishing and maintaining our boundaries.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you. I happen to be a hugger, and I think there's nothing wrong with a hug. So thank you, and
Thank you. And on that note.